Hello, this is Little Green Ghouls, and welcome to Give Yourself Goosebumps, where, reader beware, you choose the scare. This week, I'm excited to visit Tock, You're Dead. Well, the last Give Yourself Goosebumps book ended up being a success, so I'm ready to jump into this time travel adventure, although I've always been more of a Janeway when it comes to time travel.
Time travel. Since my first day on the job as a Starfleet captain, I swore I'd never let myself get caught in one of these godforsaken paradoxes. The future is the past is the future. It all gives me a headache.
The plot for this one is a little more complex than our previous book. This time, we're on the hunt for our younger brother Denny in 3 distinct areas of time that include prehistoric, medieval, and a dystopian future. There are over 25 different endings to explore in this one, so let's read the blurb on the back and get started. Get trapped in time. B-O-R-I-N-G. That's how you describe your family vacation in New York City. Instead of visiting all the cool spots, like Rockefeller Center and the Statue of Liberty, your parents drag you to a bunch of stupid museums. Then, at the Museum of Natural History, something really strange happens. You accidentally get involved in a strange experiment that sends you traveling through time. Will you duel knights at a medieval castle, come face to face with man-eating dinosaurs, or take a ride through outer space? The choice is yours in this scary Goosebumps adventure, packed with over 20 spooky endings. Okay, let's start this summary. The book opens with an introduction to a family vacation in 1990s New York City. We even have an appearance from the World Trade Center, but this story is contained in the Museum of Natural History. For this book, we're a bratty 12-year-old who really hates the idea of visiting a museum, even though museums are definitively awesome places. We're tasked with watching our younger brother Denny, who Stine refers to as redheaded like it's some sort of pejorative. Denny has scarfed down a bag of gummy bears, and we're set in search of a water fountain together, while our parents view an exhibit on time. Denny takes off running down an abandoned hallway, and we follow him into a room with a sign that reads, "Warning, dangerous experiment inside. This door must be locked at all times." We creep into the room, and we get a look at our time machine for this story. The computer is hooked up to a big strange looking clock. Between the computer and the clock is a large square contraption that looks like a picture frame. You can hear the computer and the clock beeping and pinging. We're quickly noticed by a mad scientist known as Dr. Peebles, and he assumes we must be the time travel volunteer. So he straps a chain around our neck that contains various clock-looking devices. The directions are relatively clear though. "It's easy," says Dr. Peebles. "Press the button on the left to travel to the past, press the button on the right for the future. To return to the present, press the top button and the bottom button at the same time." We're then tasked with our first decision of the story. The chronometer allows us to travel through time and return to the exact moment we left, so we can choose to explore time for a bit, then when we return, continue our search at the museum for Denny. Or we can just search for Denny right away before he manages to get into any more trouble. Stine is not a fan of responsible choices, so this isn't a real choice. If we choose to search for Denny right away, we're told, "Are you serious? Would you really rather look for your brother than take a trip through time? Well then, you're reading the wrong book. Goosebumps readers only have time for adventure. Take a minute and think it over, then go back to page 5 and choose again." So it looks like we're doing some time traveling. Dr. Peebles fires up the machine and the doorway begins to glow. But before we can stop him, Denny races into the room and runs right into this machine, where he disappears with a pop. Dr. Peebles regrets to inform us that we only have 2 hours to locate Denny before he's lost in timelessness forever. In order to bring Denny back, we'll have to be touching Denny while we activate the chronometer. The major issue here is that there's no way to tell where in time Denny went, so we're given our next choice. Should we travel into the past or into the future? I'm all about a potential dinosaur adventure, so we're headed to the past first. We step into the glowing doorway and you feel a strange tingling sensation. Everything appears hazy, as if you're underwater. A second later, you see 2 paths ahead in the mist. At the end of the left path, you squint and see a tall stone castle in the distance. A knight in shiny armor on a white horse rides towards it. At the end of the right path, there's a swamp with tall, strange-looking trees towering over it. Moving among the trees is, can it be, a dinosaur? Which one will you take? Quick, decide. Like I just said, I want to see some dinosaurs, so we take off after the dinosaur. We're then exploring a prehistoric jungle filled with dinosaurs of all sizes and colors. Stine is ahead of his time and has no problem making these dinosaurs a bright array of colors. He also throws in a reference to Jurassic Park for good measure. We're enjoying our dino sightseeing when suddenly a T-Rex bursts through the trees. Various dinosaurs take off running in all directions, but one poor dino isn't fast enough and it gets its head torn off by the T-Rex. It then spots us, and we take off running into the jungle, where we come across Denny, just sitting in a clearing. It turns out he's actually not just sitting, but is trapped in some classic quicksand. We manage to yank Denny out of the quicksand, but in the process, the chronometer falls and sinks into the muck. The T-Rex is just a few yards away, and we're asked to make a choice. Dig in the quicksand for the chronometer, or run away from the T-Rex. The clear solution here is to run away first, but let's see what happens if we decide to dig in the muck. The T-Rex races closer and closer as we root frantically through all the quicksand in vain. The T-Rex then stands right behind us and burps so forcefully that it knocks both Denny and us into the quicksand, head first, where we meet our first ending, death via quicksand. Now let's see what happens if we decide to run away from the T-Rex without our chronometer. We take off in the jungle with Denny and are able to outmaneuver the T-Rex between some narrow trees until it decides to give up. We return to the quicksand pit to search for the chronometer, when we're then interrupted by the eruption of a nearby volcano. Rocks and lava rain from the sky as we dive to the ground. One of these molten rocks splashes into the quicksand and sends the chronometer up to the surface where we can scoop it up. I think we get confused on what button to push, or we're just really stupid because instead of returning to the present with Denny, we instead go further back in time. We're now standing in the middle of a dinosaur nest looking at dino eggs that are in the process of hatching. Denny declares he's bored, snatches the chronometer, and runs off into the jungle because I guess this kid has a death wish. We're then given the next set of choices: sit and watch the baby dinosaurs hatch, or chase after Denny's stupid ass. I want to watch some dinosaurs hatch, but it quickly becomes apparent that this was the wrong answer and a little lackluster. The eggs hatch, and instead of dinosaurs appearing, we see some prehistoric chicken in our second ending as Stine taunts, "Never count your dinosaurs before they hatch." We'll now head back a couple pages and chase after Denny. He's a quick little bastard, so he somehow managed to get away, but we spot the chronometer on the ground. We then make a rather large assumption and just assume that he got bored with the current time period and decided to explore the future. So we press some buttons on the chronometer and are transported to a futuristic looking city. We wander around and admire all the shiny glass buildings, flying cars, and notice a lack of litter on the ground. We're then grabbed by the shoulder and turn around face to face with a robotic policeman, who informs us that we're under arrest because humans aren't allowed on the streets. We try to tell this RoboCop that we're from a different planet, but are hauled off to RoboCourt anyways. The Robo Judge declares we're guilty, and we're given the choice: be sent to the zoo or sent to school. The choice seems easy, but that's what makes it a trap. We head off to the zoo and notice all the typical animals you'd expect to see in a zoo, sitting behind transparent force fields. We're then taken to an exhibit featuring a classic living room, complete with a couch and TV. We're then tossed inside and sealed behind a force field without a chronometer. Groups of robots pass by and laugh at the strange-looking human, occasionally tossing candy bars into our cage, where we learn in our third ending that we're on display as a couch potato. I guess we better go back to court and find out what happens if we select school this time. We're then sent to a typical looking classroom with human kids and a robot teacher. In the front of the room, there's a mysterious metal box the size of a closet. The teacher is quizzing the students, and when one girl doesn't know the answer, she's told to step inside the Familizer. The box glows green, and when the door reopens, the girl's been vaporized. Another boy fails to answer a question correctly and is also sent into the Familizer and subsequently vanishes. We're then given our next choice as the teacher gets ready to call on us: use the chronometer to vanish without Denny, or try to answer the teacher's question the best we can. I want to try answering this teacher's question because I'm hopeful it might involve some Goosebumps trivia. And I'm in luck because it does. The teacher then asks, the ancient British wizard Morgred used a magic spell to travel in time. The spell made use of 3 magical objects. What are they? Morgred? He was the wizard in Goosebumps' book, A Night in Terror Tower. You remember him, but can you remember the answer to the question? If you can't, you'll have to guess. Think carefully, then answer. We're then asked to choose between 3 white stones, or a pin, a pipe, and a potato. This one is clearly 3 white stones, because we're Goosebumps experts. But let's see what happens real quick if we're wrong. It turns out, pretty much exactly what you would expect would happen. We're vaporized in our 4th ending. We'll now give the correct answer, 3 white stones, which results in the robo teacher congratulating us on round 1, but we know we won't be able to keep this up, so we quickly use the chronometer to go even further into the future. We find ourselves on a rocket ship out in space that then docks into a space station. Inside, we can see both humans and robots running around, but all the humans are dressed in yellow uniforms, so we quickly dive into a storage closet and change into a yellow jumpsuit. We're able to admire the space views for a bit, before getting cornered once again by some angry robots, and are then forced to hide either in hydroponics or the engine room. I think hydroponics sounds more exciting, so we'll hide there first. We run around a room full of giant, strange-looking plants, all potted in a mysterious pink liquid. We notice signs that read, danger, and suddenly one of the plants covered in spikes lunges at us. It shoots out a spiked vine that's slithering towards us, and we're given the options: either run to the exit, or grab a nearby rake and fight back. Stine typically rewards being more proactive, but not this time. If we grab the rake to fight back, we are met with our 5th ending, where the vine wraps us up tight. To add insult to injury, Denny strolls on in and admires our plantified remains. We'll now see what happens if we race towards the exit instead. This time, we have to battle various plants, including one chucking cucumbers at us, but manage to make it to the exit. Outside, we decide we have no choice but to return to Dr. Peoples for help. But when we try to activate the return to present buttons, nothing happens. We glance up and see a sign that says Teletime, and wonder if that has something to do with time travel. Inside the Teletime room, we see something that would actually be super cool if it was real. This room contains various TVs playing events throughout history, like a live feed into the past. We decide maybe we should ask one of the robots for help returning to the present, because yes, these robots have been nothing but helpful so far. This results in the robot aggressively demanding we explain ourselves, and we're given a choice: ask the robot for help, or trick the robot. I don't trust these robots at all, so I'm gonna trick its ass, but let's first see what happens if we ask it for help. My suspicions were justified because this evil robot demands we help it study the past and assigns us to one of the monitors. We then meet our sixth ending, where we're forced to watch George Washington cross the Delaware River over and over and over for a history lesson that lasts an eternity. We'll now go back and trick this robot properly instead. We use some good old-fashioned reverse psychology to trick this robot into showing us Dr. Peoples' laboratory on one of those live feeds where he's reviewing the instructions on the chronometer. We learn that we forgot to hold the buttons down for at least 5 seconds. That's why we couldn't get back to the present earlier. We then trick this robot into showing us Denny's current location on the space station, and surprise, he just so happens to be hiding on a nearby desk. We race to Denny and use the chronometer to return to the present. This appears to be our first happy ending at number 7, because we return to Dr. Peoples' lab in one piece. Denny remains a little shit though, and punches us in the stomach before running off to return to our parents. For the sake of clarity story-wise, we won't jump too far back, we'll just return to where we had to choose between hydroponics and the engine room, but this time we'll select the engine room. This results in us coming across a chamber labeled Anti-Grav, where you spot Denny floating around having the time of his life. We crawl in after him and float around this room trying to capture the little asshole, but he refuses to cooperate. We then spot a Robocop with his laser drawn standing outside the door. It declares that we're human spies and snatches the chronometer away from us and latches onto our shoulder and hauls us off with its other hand. It commands Denny come too, but he just kicks the Robocop in the shin and runs away. This perplexes the Robocop, and it decides to take us to its captain for now. The captain ends up being a human woman, but she's not pleasant and declares we'll be executed for spying. We're then given the choice to either lie or to tell the truth. I figured lying would be rewarded, but nope, not this time. We try to convince her we're just a new crew member who got mixed up, but it's no use as we failed to correctly answer her very specific spaceship questions. We then meet our 8th ending as we're forced out of an airlock, resulting in our whole body horrifically exploding in our most graphic ending so far. We'll now see what happens if we tell the truth this time around. We tell the captain we are in fact a lost time traveler, and that the chronometer allows us to travel through time. The captain snatches the chronometer from the Robocop and examines it before handing it back to us. She then tells us to wait out in the hallway while she tries to figure out what to do next. This then just restarts the storyline where we head into the Teletime room, so we'll consider this path a dead end. Let's wrap up this future adventure though, and go back to the classroom where we were forced to answer the teacher's question, or use the chronometer to escape, and this time we'll choose to escape. This results in us having 3 different choices. We can return to the laboratory to get help from Dr. People, go further into the future, or back into the past. If we try to go back to the laboratory, it's lights out for us, because we can't remember how to use this chronometer correctly. This results in our 9th ending, because now we've wasted too much time fiddling with the chronometer and are forced to answer how many electrons are found in a pound of taffy. We obviously don't know the answer, so we wait to be vaporized. Let's go back and choose between going further into the future or back into the past. We'll stick with our future theme and check out that path first. This is short-lived though, because the chronometer is only allowing us to travel 5 seconds into the future at a time. This results in our 10th ending, where we aren't able to escape the questions, and once again wait to be tossed into the familiarizer because time's up. We'll check out this last option and see what happens if we travel into the past. This time, we're sent to the exact same spot that Robocop caught us when we first arrived to the future, only now it's nighttime. We're able to dodge a passing Robocop, but a shoulder scare then catches us by surprise. It ends up being a fellow human who wants to warn us it's not safe above ground and ushers us down into the sewers with him, where he introduces himself as Jarmel, the leader of the rebellion. Jarmel explains that the robots were originally created to serve the humans, but they grew too powerful and eventually took over. He introduces us to some other rebels, and we learn that the battle for freedom is due to start any minute. We then hear a loud explosion from above. Jarmel demands to know if we're down to fight the rebels as everybody grabs weapons, or if we're going to return to the streets searching for Denny. I'm over this hunt for Denny, so I chose to help the rebels. And it's a good thing I did, because searching for Denny results in our 11th ending. Telling Jarmel that we want to find Denny enrages him, and he decides that we'll make great bait for the robots. We're then tied to the top of a sewer as the rebels wait with weapons drawn to start blasting any robots that come near us, where we're presumably going to be killed in the crossfire. However, joining the rebels also puts us right into the action immediately. We learn that there's a special power plant that fuels all the robots in the city that the rebels are trying to disable. We're given a red box containing explosives that will need to place within 3 feet of the power plant's core. We'll then just have 1 minute to run before it explodes. We're then given 2 ways to execute this plan. We can choose to try and trick the robo-guards into letting us into the power plant, or we can crawl through the air ducts. I thought crawling through the air ducts seemed like a great action hero idea. Unfortunately, this is the wrong decision. As we squeeze into the air duct, the passage becomes so narrow that we can no longer move forward or backwards with our arms pinned to our sides. A claustrophobic nightmare. The robots realize we're in the air duct and decide to seal the vents, causing us to suffocate in our 12th ending, where Stine taunts, we met a breathtaking end. We'll now go back and try to trick these guards instead. Jarmel instructs us to tell the robots that we're here to fix the power core and just hope for the best. We tell the robots, and they're rightfully suspicious, but they let us on in anyways. We then have to decide whether to climb a ladder or explore a walkway as we attempt to locate the power core. This is another 50-50 choice with no clear answer, and once again I choose wrong. Taking the walkway causes us to run into some more Robocops. We're able to talk our way out of trouble by making up a bunch of big mechanical sounding words. The issue is we sound so smart that they want us to teach at a robot college. This is where we find our 13th ending. We're trapped teaching a class on robotics to a room full of robots, just hoping that the rebels are able to pull through. This ending kind of just ignores that we still have the chronometer that we could use to escape. We'll now jump back and decide to climb the ladder this time. On this path, we locate the power core pulsating green within a glass-covered room with a sign that reads "Extreme Danger, Do Not Enter." We then have to decide either to enter the room to drop off the bomb, or hope we're close enough and leave the bomb outside the door. Once again, being responsible backfires because if we go inside the room to properly finish the job, a robot quickly locks us inside with the bomb. The power core melts the chronometer, and we wait to explode in our 14th ending. However, if we go back and leave the bomb outside the door and call it close enough, we're rewarded. We only have a minute to escape, so we race toward an emergency exit that houses a convenient slide out of the building. We slide our way to safety just as it explodes and are greeted by a group of cheering rebels. Jarmel then informs us that they've located Denny in a nearby space station, so we're strapped into a rocket destined for a space station storyline that we've already completed, so we'll consider it a dead end for our purposes. Now that all these future storylines are complete so far, this gives us a chance to go way back to where we had to choose between the dinosaur and the medieval knight. So this time we're going to choose the knight. We follow this knight into a classic stone castle, complete with a drawbridge and moat. We're so enthralled with the idea of exploring a medieval castle that we're really caught off guard when the knight turns around and comes charging at us with a spear. We're then given 2 options, either jump into the moat or face the knight. I want to see if this moat has alligators in it, so into the water we go. It doesn't take long to realize I was basically right. This water isn't full of alligators, but it does contain crocodiles. We swim frantically, trying to activate the chronometer, but it's too late. We're devoured by crocodiles at our 15th ending. We'll now head back and face this knight instead, who stops last second before he can spear us in the face. He declares in order to enter King Ruthbert's castle, we first have to beat this knight in a duel, and he presents an array of weapons to choose from, including a spear, club, sword, and spiky chain. We get clever with it and select the club, but decide the duel is going to consist of whoever hits an apple the furthest wins, so basically baseball. To determine if we win, Stine has us flipping 2 coins. If the coins come up matching heads or tails, we go to one page, and if they come up not matching, we go to another. I got 2 tails, which is unfortunate. The knight tosses an apple, and we miss it, giving us our 16th ending, as the knight scoops us up and chucks us to the crocodiles. We'll now go back and see what happens if fate was on my side and the coins didn't match. This time, we smack the apple way past the knight while he fails to even hit the apple. As a result, the knight throws himself to the crocodiles, but warns us to beware the lair before promptly getting eaten. I'd feel worse for him if he didn't just feed me to the crocodiles like 30 seconds ago. We creep into the castle, and right away notice an enormous tapestry that appears to have some sort of lion on it. We venture further into the castle, which gets creepier and creepier given that it's only lit by candles and dark twisting corridors. All the candles suddenly blow out and we hear a scream echo through the halls. We're then given a choice, head back or keep moving forward to see if the scream belonged to Denny. At this point, I think Denny can fend for himself, so we're heading back. We walk back blindly through the dark and happen to feel a doorknob on the wall. Inside is a smoky room only lit by red light, where we spot a woman chained to a wall. She begs us to unlock her before the dragon returns. The lock itself is a strange shape, and it seems like the chronometer will fit perfectly. The dragon then pops its scaly head through a hole in the wall, and we have to decide to use the chronometer as a key, or just run away from the situation entirely. I vote we choose the coward's way out and see how Stine punishes us accordingly. We turn and hightail it out of there when this woman screams for us to halt, because she's no damsel in distress, she's the dragon keeper, and we just failed the knight's test. We insist that we didn't actually want to be a knight, we're just looking for Denny, but it doesn't matter and she sicks her dragon on us. We then meet our 17th and silly ending. The dragon blows flames all around us, but we turn around and insult its breath and suggest it could use some mouthwash, causing the dragon to hang its head in shame. We'll now go back a step and use the chronometer to save this fake damsel in distress. We unlock her chains and dodge the dragon. However, she never reveals herself to be the dragon keeper, but does ask if she can return the favor, so we ask her about Denny. She points us to King Ruthbert's throne room and says she saw a young boy in there earlier. We notice we only have 30 minutes left before Denny is lost to timelessness forever, so we hustle on into the throne room. I expected there to be a toilet in here, but nope. We enter a royal room full of knights and women in fancy gowns. At the front of the room is King Ruthbert, seated in his throne with a young man next to him in a smaller throne. We try to tell a random knight about Denny, but he declares we must be spies for King Henry. We're then thrown at the feet of King Ruthbert, and we can see that Denny is actually in the small throne next to him. Apparently, King Ruthbert always wanted a son, so when Denny appeared in the castle, he decided to adopt him. The king still thinks we're a spy, and Denny is a mean little shit who has no interest in helping us. It's decided we'll be taken to the roof and tossed into a pot of boiling oil. We're then given two choices based off of chance. If today's date is an even number, we go to one page. If it's an odd number, we go to another. This video will come out on the 25th, so we'll go odd first. The king and Denny appear to watch the execution, and we plead for Denny to help us, but he doesn't. We then trick them both by announcing we have a valuable piece of jewelry to give Denny first. When Denny gets closer, we try to use the chronometer, but Denny refuses, and we end up getting knocked off the platform and into the boiling pot below. Luckily, we're able to activate the chronometer at the last second, and return to Dr. Peebles' lab without Denny. He's been lost to time forever, but we're not too shaken up about it in our 18th ending, because the little bastard did just try to boil us in oil after all. We'll now jump back to the even and odd choice and see what happens if the day was an even number. We once again are taken to the roof to be tossed in boiling oil, but at the last second, an army of King Henry's invading knights storm the roof. The knights forget about you and rush to protect King Ruthbert. Then he gets snatched up by some invading knights, and we're forced to choose between tricking the knight into releasing him, or just rolling into the knight's path with the hopes that he'll drop Denny. We'll trick this knight first and see what happens. We tell the knight that King Ruthbert would has a lot of money to pay for his son back. The knight wants us to tell him some more and cuts the ropes from our hands, and where we proceed to shift into karate action mode and kick the sword out of the knight's hands. We then jump onto Denny, hitting some buttons on the chronometer in the process. When we open our eyes, we're in front of a crowd all chanting, "All hail the king! All hail the king!" So, we've somehow been turned into a king in a different timeline. Then, in our 19th ending, we command the guards to take Denny away as a slave boy. We now have to see what happens if we choose to roll out in front of the knight versus tricking him. This time, the knight trips over us, sending Denny to the ground, where he's able to untie us, and we click the chronometer together to teleport out of there. This drops us off in the dinosaur nest with the hatching eggs from earlier, so we're gonna have to consider this a dead end. Now we're returned to the medieval castle hallway, where we had to decide to pursue the mystery scream in the dark or retreat, and this time we'll be brave. We press on ahead in the dark and come across two doors. One takes us to the throne room, which we already explored, so we'll try this new one, labeled To the Lair, even though the knight from the moat earlier warned us about it. We followed the winding corridor and noticed a trail of gummy bears on the ground, meaning Denny must have been this way. We're then faced with two doors to choose from. One is labeled Lair of the Wizard, and the other is Lair of the Lizard. I feel like a wizard would be more helpful than a lizard, but nope. We step into the room and are greeted by an enormous lizard with a collar that reads Wizard, so it's Wizard the Lizard, and it's eating Denny. The giant lizard lunges at us, and we have our 20th ending, where we get gobbled up by a giant lizard named Wizard. Now we'll go back and try the other door, labeled Lair of the Lizard, this time because we don't have much of a choice at this point. We squeeze through the tiny door and find a wizard frantically looking for his lizard. He immediately knows we're a time traveler and takes us over to his crystal ball for a pop quiz. Stine gets meta once again, and we have a question regarding the cuckoo clock of doom, and have to select how to operate the thing. We're given the choice of turning the cuckoo's head backwards or pulling it out of the clock 3 times. We know the correct answer is turn its head, but let's see what happens if you're wrong first. The wizard wastes no time and banishes us to the quarters of time in our 21st ending, where we wander around misty nothingness with Denny, who's turned into an old man. When we give the correct answer to the wizard's question instead, he disappears with a poof, and Denny is left standing in his place. We try to get Denny to return to the present before time runs out, but he just takes off running like usual, this time to the back of the lair. We spot him slipping into a room hidden between two bookshelves, but when we get closer, we can hear heavy, animalistic breathing on the other side. We crawl on in and find some sort of nest complete with piles of bones everywhere. We hear a faint cry for help coming through an opening in the back of the room that's glowing red. We're then given the choice to either stay put in this cave or crawl through the glowing opening. Let's crawl through first because staying put is rarely a good idea. Inside the crack, we find an enormous spider web with Denny tangled all up in it. We try to free him but quickly get stuck ourselves, resulting in our 20-second ending as a giant spider appears, ready to sink its fangs in us. We'll now go back and just stay put this time in this strange den. We eventually locate Denny, tied up under a pile of straw. He says a weird lion tied him up, but we ignore this and try to get the chronometer activated since Denny has less than 15 minutes left. But before we can, a roar shakes the room. This lion is enormous and must be somewhat human-like because it strolls into the room talking and grabs us by the arm. We're then face to face with our next choice: activate the chronometer and bring the lion creature with us, or stay and fight the lion first. We'll be brave this time around and fight off this lion, but this goes south fast. We manage to shake the lion off of us, but in the process, Denny and the lion are knocked to the floor and vanish when the chronometer is accidentally activated, so now they're lost in time together, and we're stuck with a broken chronometer. We then have our first really poorly written segue, because we then decide to find the wizard to help us fix the chronometer. This sends us to the door marked Lair of the Wizard from earlier, without any choice in the matter, and we're eaten by Wizard the Lizard once again. It doesn't even make sense because on that page, we're calling for Denny, even though he was just sucked into time with the lion. It's just a bad link between pages that we haven't seen yet. To get back on track though, we hop back to where we had a choice to stay and fight the lion, or just bring the lion through time with us, and this time we're bringing the lion along for the ride. Except once again, this leads to a path we've already completed. At the last second, Denny lets go, and we can't get the chronometer to work properly, so we end up just going back in time just a little bit, and are once again outside the throne room, where we're forced to go inside looking for Denny, but we've already completed the throne path, so it's a dead end for us. We now have no choice but to go back to the very start of the book, where we were first asked whether we wanted to search for Denny in the past or the future, and this time we're going to explore the future, even though I'd argue we already spent a considerable amount of time in the future. This results in us entering the time machine and having to choose between two misty scenes. One is a futuristic looking city, and the other looks like present day New York. We've already completed the robot dystopia storyline, so we'll head to New York. This is a little anticlimactic as we wander typical New York and learn it's just one day into the future. We then spot a familiar looking family and suddenly see ourselves walking with Denny and our parents down the street. Suddenly, a runaway truck is headed straight for everyone and it looks like guaranteed to crush them. So we're given the choice to use the chronometer to go back a couple minutes to stop our family, or choose to go back and stop the truck. I feel like talking to our own family from the future is going to cause a whole lot of trouble, so let's check out that path first. We are placed 15 minutes back in time and have to decide whether to create a distraction or just talk to them directly. Talking to them directly seems to be the biggest no-no in time travel, so we'll do that first. As to be expected, the family freaks the fuck out when they see us approaching. This causes them all to move further into traffic in an attempt to get away. Then he starts karate chopping at us, and soon we team up with our future self to beat up Denny as a massive truck comes and wipes out the entire family in our 23rd ending. We'll now go back, and instead of choosing to talk to our family directly, this time we'll distract them. We quickly exchange our $30 of allowance for smaller bills and change, and proceed to hop on top of a newsstand while shouting free money and tossing money everywhere. This provides enough of a distraction that your family is stalled just enough to avoid being hit by a truck, and then Denny from your timeline appears to collect the money too. We're then given the chance to grab onto Denny, or try talking into him to coming with us. Talking to this little psychopath is clearly the wrong choice, so let's try that first. However, it turns out this was the correct choice because in our 24th ending, we're able to use reverse psychology on Denny to get him to demand to return to the lab all by himself. We'll now see what happens when you grab onto him instead. This results in Denny freaking out and running away directly into the other Denny from the future. We race over and grab onto both of the Dennys before activating the chronometer. So now in our 25th ending, we've managed to bring two Dennys into the present, making everybody's lives worse. We're getting very close to the end here, so we'll hop back to where we had to choose whether to stop our family or stop the truck, and this time we're stopping the truck. We activate the chronometer and we're sent 1 hour back before the truck crushes our family. We decide to locate this truck and do so with the power of the phone book. We find the trucking lot and quickly spot the only green truck in the lot. We then have to decide whether we want to talk to the driver himself or the dispatcher in a nearby booth. We'll talk to the dispatcher first, but the moment we engage with her, she mistakes us for a shipping clerk and wants us to load up some crates in our red truck right next to the green truck. We think this is a great opportunity to stop the green truck and head on over. We're kind of a pushover though, because an angry man named Abe starts screaming at us to load this truck up, and soon we've loaded over 30 crates onto the red truck, and the green truck is getting ready to leave and presumably smash her family. We try to get away from Abe, but Stine decides it's going to come down to luck. If we're wearing green, go to one page. If not, go to another. I'm not wearing green, I have pink on, so bad luck for us. Abe snatches us by the shoulder and throws us in the cargo area with all the crates because he needs us to unload these crates later too. We then notice these crates are filled with little white lab mice, so we decide to release all of them as a distraction. This works and all the mice cause enough chaos that the driver of the green truck has to stop and help clean up in our 26th ending, so now we can't run our family over. Although we still haven't saved Denny in this one, so it's kind of too incomplete to be considered a happy ending. We should find out what happens if I was wearing green though, on the supposed good luck ending. In this one, we approach the driver in the green truck and tell that her uncle owns the store he's driving to, and that the dispatcher said we could ride along. The driver's like sure, but forces us to ride in the cargo area that's filled with crates of fish. We're then sealed in and off for a ride. It becomes clear we won't be able to stop the truck now, so we have no choice but to use the chronometer again. That sends us back in time to where we had to choose between creating a distraction or talking to our family directly, which we already did, so it's a dead end for us. We still have a little time left in this book to explore though, so we're going to go back to where we were supposed to choose between talking to the driver directly or talking to the dispatcher, and this time we're going to go ahead and talk straight to the driver. We decide to tell the driver that we're lost and need a ride back to our hotel. He lets us ride with him without issue, but as we're driving down the road, he declares the accelerator is stuck, and soon we're barreling right at our family as they're crossing the street. We then have to decide whether we want to steer the truck the other direction or attempt to hit the brakes. We'll try to steer out of the way first, but this proves to be more challenging than anticipated. The steering wheel won't cooperate, and it looks like we're going to crush our entire family. But the last second we steer out of the way, put right into a brick wall where we meet our 27th end. As we smash into a wall and Stine declares we were a hit on Broadway. Let's now check out this final ending and see what happens when we try to activate the brakes on this runaway truck. We almost can't reach the brakes, but once again at the last second we're able to activate them. This causes a taxi to rear end the truck, spilling fish everywhere, but at this point we're over it and decide just to take the chronometer back to the present in our 28th and final ending, where we just decide to leave Denny behind because we're not the boss of him anyways. Well, that's it. All 28 endings are fully explored. I thought this one was an improvement storyline wise, and I feel like Stine did a better job fleshing out each of the scenarios, so the stakes felt a little higher. I would have liked to spend more time in the prehistoric era, because I felt like the future storylines took up a disproportionate amount of time. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Tock, You're Dead. Did you have a favorite era in this book? When would you time travel to? Is Denny the worst Goosebumps sibling we've had in quite a while? Next week, we're back on Fear Street with the stepsister, which is giving me some single white female vibes. Anyways, as always, thanks again for watching, and make sure you subscribe for
the pride, the love,